continuing talking about my experience with depression. So I was trying to say on the first audio that I had no vegetable in my diet. I had no probiotic or prebiotic in my diet. My exercise was very strenuous and I was nutrient deficient without even knowing it. All of these things and your stress management also impacted on how I was feeling. As a new mom, the stress of the lack of sleep was also impacting my emotion. I carried on feeling this way, went back to work full time. I knew things were not right. I was usually somebody who I love to dress up. I love to dress up and I love to go out. I love to pamper myself. I love to paint my nails. I love to buy shoes. Shopping was a hobby of mine. All of these things I began to question why I needed to do this thing. I love to cook. Cooking became a chore for me. I love to clean. I love to see things look clean. They all became a problem. I had no energy to do these things. Anything I couldn't do from 6 p.m. would have to wait till the next day. I couldn't stay up from 6 p.m. I would have to be sitting, I would have to be lying on a chair or I need to be seated or lying down. I couldn't stand on my feet from that point onwards. I always had constant back pain. It was one of the reasons I refused epidural when I was giving birth, because I knew that it would worsen my situation because I already had a lot of back pain. All of these things are caused by inflammation. If your body is inflamed, you would have a lot of pain in your body. I carried on with my therapy, and at a point I just did not feel it was helping me. I began to look for other things. At this point, I was also experiencing bloating and chronic constipation. Now, if you're eating and you're not eliminating waste, your body will be clogged up because your body will reabsorb those toxins. Those toxins would affect you mentally too. You have to be very, you have to use the bathroom at least every day. When doctors would tell me, oh, eat more vegetables, I don't think I understood how much I needed to include in my diet. I didn't have enough. You need a lot of sulfur-rich food. You need cruciferous vegetables in your diet to get that fiber. You need to populate your gut. You need probiotics and prebiotics. I keep talking about this because they are very, very important. And please introduce your children to these things. They need it too. Children are not really able to understand what's going on. I mean, I was in my mid to late 30s before I started to work on myself. I had no clue what was going on. This is me talking about depression. I've had other medical issues prior to this time, which I'm going to talk about on other audios. I'd had eczema, I'd had PCOS to the point where I had surgery for it. I had asthma, and as I speak, I also have arthritis from years of using hydrocortisone for my eczema. Okay, and this is something that people need to be aware of. Anyway, you see, that depressive mood is something I do not wish on anybody, especially if you're trying to give birth. If you're trying for children, please work on yourself, clean up your diet before you venture into it. Because the last thing you want is for your feelings to affect that baby. If you're depressed, you're probably you're nutrient deficient, and you need to feed yourself right before you go into doing this. You have to. And if you've been living a normal dietary, if you're living on a standard diet, please think about changing the way you eat. the way you manage your stress before you ever think about having children. Otherwise, you're going to experience some of these things when you get pregnant, after you get pregnant, and as you raise those kids, you will struggle. This is the time to start doing it. If you're still single or you're married and you're still preparing yourself for pregnancy, please. I went on to a ketogenic diet. This was me who was already nutrient deficient. I went on to ketogenic diet, and my aim was to bring down the bloating in my stomach. I was slim, but I had a bloated tummy. I had something called SIBO. Okay, this is a situation where you have lots of bad bacteria that causes you bloating, that every time you eat certain things, they don't digest properly. I was so eager to get this bloating down or get my stomach deflated because it was so big. I looked pregnant and I wasn't. All of these things also affect and cause anxiety and depression. I would like you to really listen to my nutritional audio to help you. One thing that made a massive difference in my lifestyle was taking out gluten from my diet, taking out cow's milk from my diet. I found really helpful. It was at that point I started on my healing journey. Ketogenic diet was a good start, but it made me even more nutrient deficient. I was more concentrated. I concentrated on taking out food instead of replacing them with something that was better. I didn't fine-tune my diet until a couple of years ago, where I understood the importance of vegetables. Not just vegetables, a variety of them. I aim to have at least 3 different vegetables on my plate. If I eat 2 times, I make sure that sometimes I have more than that. Sometimes I could have a fruit, mostly berries, kiwi, low sugar fruit. If I'm going to have something like banana, I would have at least three vegetables in it that would kind of help me balance it. My aim is just to get the nutrients in banana into my system. So no food is bad per se. It's how you eat it and the quantity of it that you eat. The things that I will say is bad, however, is processed sugar, processed food, and overly processed oil that you cook with. You want to take these out, and gluten, because gluten stops you from having a nutrient-dense diet. The more gluten you have, the less of nutritious food you're having. And so taking this out means you're going to replace them with nutrient-dense options that is good for your body. Every disease, most diseases, if they're not genetic, or if they could be genetic, and also part of it is nutrient deficiency. At some point, you're going to experience things like fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, arthritis, gastric issues, name them, eczema, asthma. All of these have something to do with nutrition and deficiency in a variety of things. Supplements are also things that you might want to add on to help you make the nutritional changes you're making work quicker. You see, I got to a point where I would look at my shoes and my clothes and I'll be asking myself why I wasted so much money buying them. Signing a document became a task for me. Things that I did effortlessly became a problem. Going out was zeroed. I couldn't be asked to be around people. I isolated myself so much. I just had enough energy to get to work, go home and look after my children. That was it. And then go to church on Sundays. That was what my life was like. Just spending time with the kids, just getting through doing their homework, just spending time with them. As time went on, I began to incorporate, like I said, there were 3 things that I included in my lifestyle. It is cooking bone broth every week. including cow leg in it. I use cow leg, or chicken feet also is a good option. I would add liver to it and kidney. I would also, so I'll slow cook it for about 8 hours. Now that became my base for, even if I wanted to cook beans, that bone broth will be the base of that bean. I would soak my beans for a few days, maybe a couple of days, just to ferment it a little bit, and to remove some of the toxins that are in it. I will cook it. I will pour out the first water, and then I'll start cooking, and I'll cook with the bone broth. This is to make it more nutrient dense. The same thing I do with rice. My preferred option is basmati, and I would soak, I would cook, pour out, and I would finally cook with bone broth. Bone broth became the base of every meal to heal my gut and that of my children, because I then passed on the eczema I had. Both my children have it. Both my children have eczema. Do you see what I mean when I say you need to heal yourself before you start having children? You also would have to work hard. Another thing I started doing for milk, I replaced cow milk for them with coconut milk. I also make something called kefir, and I take a bit of that when I make. I'm going to make another video to talk about what my diet, my typical diet is like. I use it to make chia seed for them in the evening. So one of my sons doesn't like yogurt or kefir, so he uses coconut milk for it, and the other one does. So I include that. All of these things I'm doing is to populate their gut, like I said, because like I said to you, if your gut is happy, your brain will be happy. And then another thing was eating between 6 to 9 cups of vegetables a day, essentially having up to 3 different vegetables at every meal. These 3 things made a difference. I began to feel and look different without even that much exercise. Now, I walk a lot and I also lift weight. These are my preferred exercise because they are not stressful, they're not strenuous. Because if you go running when you haven't even eaten properly, your body doesn't have the right nutrient, and you go running, you're going to increase your cortisol level, which is your stress level. And when that is increased, your body is flooded with your blood sugar becomes high to help you deal with it. It's like being in a stressed state, and so you're not going to be able to burn fat if that is your aim. And you're not going to be able to manage your blood sugar if what you're doing is strenuous exercise. When you haven't nourished your body right, you're not going to lose weight. This is why some people will say, oh, I'm exercising, but I'm not losing weight. You're not losing weight because your body is already inflamed and it's stressed. I always advise people to give themselves time to nourish their body before you start to add any exercise at all. Walking might be okay, but strenuous exercise, no. So now I know how to manage my exercise, my stress, and my sleep routine or sleep hygiene has improved so much. I have a set time for bedtime. I have a bedtime routine where I would meditate with my children. We meditate, we pray, we do an activity. Maybe it could be yoga one day, another day it could be piano, another time it could be reading. We do all of these things, and every day we meditate. And then we go to bed at 8. We aim to go to bed at 8. And with that, I am able to get up to 7 hours of good quality sleep. Sometimes it's not really the length of sleep you get. It is really the quality of sleep you get. When you wake up, how do you feel? Do you feel energized? Your sleep, your nutrition, your movement, aka exercise, is very important to getting your mental health right. Like I said, seek help if you don't feel you're in the right space to work on yourself before it gets too late. Okay? And remember, constipation is a symptom of future Alzheimer's. So please make sure you're able to go to the toilet regularly. And if you include some of these things I've mentioned, it would help you a lot. Your lifestyle needs to change. It can't remain the same. Otherwise, you're going to spiral down and you'll get to a point where you would not be able to dig yourself out of that hole without some clinical intervention. There's nothing wrong with the clinical intervention, but if you're in a state where you feel you're still able to manage and you're still able to do things for yourself and function, then you can start incorporating some of these things I've mentioned. I really hope this helps you, and I wish you well on your healing journey.